Good morning, everyone. So yesterday we learned about working with controlled components. So in components, we learned about controlled components. We have uncontrolled components and controlled components. So what is the concept of controlled component means? We can design components in such a way that they can be customized according to requirements. So we can reuse a component and modify according to the requirements. So controlled components are always controlled by the data coming from the parent. So we have a parent component. Parent component sends data to the controlled component and controlled component presents the data. Already yesterday we designed these examples of nav bar. We created example of a nav bar and one grid like control. We created a nav bar and a data grid. In this, we designed a grid and what is the concept is wherever we want to present the data in a grid form, we can simply design a component without actually really designing it. Already it is designed, we have to just use it. We have to pass data into it. So let's run this and see yesterday what we created. So I showed two examples. One, we created our own nav bar, which can display different items according to the situation. Yeah, we created this grid like control. So in real world development, these type of components are very common. We will make them function with the data coming from backend. Editing, deleting, all such operations we will implement in it. We just learned how to design such components. We will make these components work in the next level. That means we will get data from database, from an API. We will display the data in tabular form, means by using these grid like controls, and we will make these buttons work now. Means in the next level we will make them work. So when I click on edit, it should open that record in edit mode. When I click on delete, it should able to delete that record. All these CRUD operations we are going to handle. Pagination, everything we are going to see. So for that, first we should know how to design it, how we can design and how we can create this. So controlled components completely depends on what? They are completely depends on what? Props. Props are nothing but properties. So a controlled component completely depends on properties. You pass the properties, according to the properties, it will present. The presentation, the layout, everything depends on props. What is the type of props? Props is an what type? Object. Object contains a key and a value. So multiple properties are passed and we can handle those properties by using these props. Now, while working with controlled components, one more important you need to understand, that is, we need to know about in controlled components, you can implement a concept called conditional rendering. Today we will add this concept also into that. In React.js, another major concept in implementation and in interviews is conditional rendering. So in interviews, some technical terms are very frequently asked. One is about controlled, uncontrolled components. Another one, conditional rendering. Conditional rendering, what is this conditional rendering? Let's see. Actual conditional rendering you already use and you already work in general HTML. When you are working with HTML, JavaScript, you already know about basic conditional rendering. Here, so many techniques are there. Let's see those techniques, how they actually work. For example, I will show you one concept here. So, for example, let's say you are writing a function. In JavaScript, you write a function, some function name, and this function is returning some value, expression, anything. Now tell me, can a function have multiple return? Can a function have more than one return? Yes, a function can have more than one return. But it will not return all of them. It returns conditional. A function can have more than one return. You never tried that. You never know the examples. For example, actually, you have a concept of a function. This function name, and it is having some value. And we write a condition. If value is matching with something, then what it can do is it can return certain value. It can return some value. If it is not matching, then it can return another. It can return another. This is possible in a function. No, it is possible in a function. So a function can be defined with multiple returns, but it will not return all of them. According to the situation, it is going to return different. That means you are designing a function and that function is not returning same. According to situation, it will change the return. In one situation, it can return one, another situation, it can return another. This is one concept of conditional rendering. Conditional rendering means according to the condition, your component can render different things, different UI. It can render different functionality. So it is not necessary that a component renders always same. According to situation, it can change. In this again, so many techniques are there. Let's see. When you are working with controlled components, these are important. Let's see what is the concept of conditional rendering. So conditional rendering is a technique where component can render different content according to the state and situation. Conditional rendering is one technique where a component can render different content according to the state and situation. So it can change. You can implement in several ways. There are so many techniques of conditional rendering. You can implement in different ways. Let's see different ways of conditional rendering, how it actually works. So for example, let's create one design here. There are so many techniques of doing this. Let's add one component called conditional demo. Okay. So conditional demo.jsx. Okay. Export function conditional demo. Okay. Now it is returning some markup. Now, depending on the situation, we must able to return different contents. So let's implement one simple logic here. Suppose we are having, means in this, so many techniques are there. In different ways, we can implement conditional rendering. Let's see the different techniques here. What are those different techniques? First one, already in our project, I am having a register component. I think register component is having, yeah, register component is having some design. Okay. Do we have any login component like is not there? Okay. Suppose there is a weather component we created. We have register, we have weather, we have stopwatch, some components we are having. So now what we are doing, let's keep this in the startup. In index.js, we have conditional demo. Okay. Now in this, I am creating a simple interface, container fluid. So here I kept heading as like my projects, something like this. Now what we need to do is we need to create a button, and this is like weather API, and we have another button, stop watch. Like this, we are having some options, and that's okay. These two are enough. So stopwatch, weather API, so many we have designed. I will take these two. Okay. Right. So now this weather API stopwatch, or let's say carousel demo, uh, carousel slideshow. Okay. And these two are buttons, BTN primary MX2. Yep. And this is BTN class name. Yeah. BTN and BTN warning. Okay. Now this is the design we are having. Now what should happen when I select weather API? I should show it here. That means it should bring that and render that weather API here. I say slideshow, it should bring and show the slideshow here. So as I told you, there are so many techniques of conditional rendering. First point is on button click. Here we need to render. I will create a div. So class margin top sum 4. Okay. We are creating a constant called component, and set component is equal to use state. Component is currently empty. There is nothing inside the component. We will render the component here. That means we are rendering the component here. Here we are rendering the component. That means just the component we are rendering there. So what is inside component? Inside component it is empty, nothing is there. So we will write here one function. This is weather API. You can write one function which can handle multiple events. We can handle multiple events. For example, for these two buttons, can I write one function managing two buttons? We can do that. So function load component is a function, and in this what we will do is we will collect the component name. CName is component name. We will collect the component name. And how to write event? Already we learned. You remembered we learned about custom arguments now. How do we pass custom arguments? On click, we need to create a function. This function have to point towards what? Load component. Into that we can pass the custom. And this is what? This is weather. Okay. Here on click, this also have to point towards which component? Load component. And what is it? So this is like slide something like this. I give it slideshow is the term. Now the component is weather name or slideshow. We will just use here. You can use anything. If there are many conditions, you can use a switch. If there are many conditions, you can use a switch. If there is only one, two condition, you can write a if. Now into the switch, we will pass the component name. And what is the case? If case is what? Weather. Then what should happen? Set component. You have to set the component, weather component. I need to import the weather component and use it here and break. That means we are importing weather component from our components and we are storing that inside this component reference. That means what it is going to render here? It renders a component. It is going to render a component. And what is that component? Weather. So, and if it is case, so what is the case? Slideshow. If it is the case slideshow, then what? Set component. Which component? So slideshow component is there. Slideshow component is there. What is the component name? Carousel. Carousel demo is the component name. I need to import that component and set as what? Brick. That means now what is the concept here is I click on weather API. The weather API will come here. You enter the city name and search. It will get that and show. I click the slideshow. The slideshow component comes here. It works perfectly here. That means what is the concept is you are rendering different content, different components. In one situation, it is rendering one. In another situation, it is rendering another. As I told you, there are so many things about conditional rendering. This is one part. That means you can design in such a way that the component renders different content. In one situation, it renders one. In another situation, it renders another. This is one part of conditional rendering. This is one part of conditional rendering, one type of conditional rendering. That means take a decision. According to the decision, according to the condition, you tell what a component have to show. That means you can design a component in such a way that it will not show every time same. It can change according to the situation. This is one concept of conditional render. It is one. In that there are so many more techniques I will tell you. One technique what we have done, user is selecting something from drop down, user is selecting something from button, user is selecting from radios or checkboxes. According to what he selected, we render that information. According to what he is selecting, we render different information. This is one concept of conditional render. Conditional render. So what we have done here is we are rendering different components here. So in one situation, one component, another situation, another component. This is one concept of a conditional render. So conditional rendering where a component can render different content according to the situation. So you can use various decision making approaches. You can use various decision making approaches to render different components, Syntactically here, this is syntax of uncontrolled component. Conditional rendering. Uncontrolled component conditional rendering, it can be like this. So you have a, I will just give a condition. That means it have a if condition is matching, then what it has to do, set component and name. Else it will use another set component. This is just syntax, another name. Better we say name 1, this is name 2, like this. In a uncontrolled component, it can render different. A controlled component can render different. A controlled component can render different. Let's see. So this is one example. A controlled component can render here. So let's see here. This is one example. In this example, we just given conditional demo dot what JSX. This is example. Huh? And for that, you must already have some components designed. You can just bring those components and render them. What is it? So you have a weather component, carousel component like that. We are accessing and we are rendering that component, right? Okay. Next technique is we will see another technique. A controlled component can be using conditional rendering. A controlled component can be using conditional rendering. Controlled component means, you see, yesterday we designed a grid. Yesterday we designed a grid. So data grid we created. This data grid is rendering, it is rendering a table. It is rendering a table. In the table, it is displaying the data. I don't want table. According to situation, different layouts I want. I want card style. I want table style. I want different. For example, you see one real example, like suppose I'm now watching my drive related folders. When I'm watching the drive related folders, you observe here, there is a view option here. What is the view option is, I'm selecting the view. You see different view styles are there. I selected large icons. Then what it is going to do is, it is going to display them in large icons like this. I selected list, then it will show like this. If I selected details, it will show at what time it modified, what is it type, what is its size, everything. That means the complete layout is changing according to selection. In one situation, it is showing only one. In another situation, it is showing many details. We want controlled components like that. That means I will say that I want only name and salary. I don't want other details. Then a table should be able to show only those two. I will say that I want all details. Then it will show all details. That means how a table can change itself. In one situation, what you selected, it will display only those. In another situation, it will display all. That means we must able to change the complete layout of any component. We can do that. Let's see how to achieve designs like this. For example, we designed a grid. In grid, it is displaying in which format? Table. I want to display in card. We have card style, table style. We want to display like card. Let's see. I will create another component for your understanding sake clearly. One more component I will create. Now this is cleaned up. Okay. Let's add a new controlled component. This is a new file I'm using as just say example like a dynamic grid.jsx. I created dynamic grid. What is this dynamic grid is? Export function, and it is dynamic grid. This dynamic grid must able to return, it should return a table, it should return a table, and it should return a card. Can a component return more than one? Just now you saw. So here I will use props. Means we will take the properties. We will write a condition. So here we are writing a condition. If props dot layout is equal to grid, then it is going to render table. It returns a table. Understood? Otherwise, else it will return another component like a div, and it will be like a card. That means what is this is you are creating one component in such a way that it have two type of renders. Till now what you done, you created a component which can render only one. Every time it is returning same na? But now it can return two different contents. If the layout is grid, then it returns which one? Table. If layout is not grid, then it will return what? Card. I can use switch also here. We can use switch, we can configure switch. Can a switch, when you write a switch, can a switch use, if the case is matching, can a switch use return? Usually switch case have a break, na? Can it use a return? Come on, you are JavaScript programmers, man. JavaScript programmers. Case can use, what do you think? What is the syntax of switch case? Switch case, after that what? Statements, after that jump statement. Jump statement can be break or it can be return also. You can have jump statement, break as well as return. In interviews, if anybody asked you like, what is difference between break and return in a switch? Switch can use return. Switch can use break. What is difference between break and return? No, you haven't learned in JavaScript. In JavaScript, you already know this, huh? General programming means C, C++ programming. Everywhere you will come across with these switches, huh? So break will terminate the block, but it will still stay in the function. Return will terminate the compiling. If there is no more, there are no more statements to execute, then what you have to do, you have to use a return. Switch can use jump. It can use jump means it can use break or it can use return. It's a general thing. Eh? So you can write a if condition or a switch. Switch also can return. Right? Usually, what is the difference? If anyone asks, I hope you know already in JavaScript. Suppose I'm writing here a function like f1 is a function and I am calling this f1 function. I am taking n, so prompt parse int, and we have a prompt enter number. Now we are writing a switch, into that we will pass n. So if case is 1, then it will print document.write as what? 1. After that we generally using break. Then we have a case 2. So document.write. So we say 2. After that I use return. Case can have a break or return. 3. Document.write. So we have 3. Suppose here I am using a break. Now what is the point here is you are running and enter number 1, it will print 1. Enter number 2, it will print 2. Enter number 3, it will print 3. We are using return here instead of break. Now, obviously, in basic interviews, they ask what is difference between break and return. What you learned, difference. So break terminates the block, but it will still keeps the compiling on. But return will terminate the compiling. Return terminates the compiling. So if there are no more statements to execute, then use return. If you still want to continue after this with other statements to execute in a function, then you use what? Break. You know that anything after return is not reachable to compiler, right? For example, you can put the debugging and you can see if you want to prove this point, then let's go inspect. In the inspect, go to sources category. In sources category, select your HTML page. In the HTML page, we have a switch. Switch is number 4 line. We will put a breakpoint and we will refresh. And what is the number? I entered number as 3. 3 is using a break. Okay. See what happens. It comes to the switch. Switch is matching with what? 3. Then step over. Next step, it will directly go to 3. After executing the third block, it will break. After break, observe, it is still inside the function. I think you can observe the function. It is still inside the function after break. Okay, let's do another. Let's refresh. Enter number 2. 2 is using, now case is 2. Step over, it comes to the second one. Second one is executed. After that, it comes to what? Return. Actually, after return, the compilation terminates. It comes out of the function. It ends the compiling process. That is basic, very, very common thing this is. Right? This is a very common thing about switch case. In switch, so many. If interviewer wants, he can conduct 1 hour interview just on switch. Only on switch. He don't need to test you in entire your technology, not required. Just only if and switch are enough for you to understand what level of skills you are having in your programming. Right? That means this is a very basic thing. You can have return and you can have break. These are jump statements. You can use any jump statement. So now the point is what we are doing here in our example, what is the concept is we used if condition, you can use a switch. Switch also can return. If there are many choices, then use a switch. So if layout is grid, it should render a table. If layout is not grid, it should render a card. It should render a card. Okay, actually, how it should render is whatever data we pass, it should render the data. Now let's create the design for this dynamic grid. We will put a class table hover. Okay. Now here we will use instead of directly the card, I will just put here a simple deflex and I will use a flex wrap like options. Okay, now what should happen is if it is table, we are expecting caption. Am I right? Caption, what you are expecting, props dot what? Caption. Okay. After that, we have T head. In that TR, in that I need headings. Headings depends on fields. Na? So we are expecting props dot what? fields dot what map. So we have to read every field. For every field, we need to generate a th. Let's put a key as field and we will print the field here. That's what we need to do as heading. And T body, yesterday we already learned T body. In the table body, we need to generate a row for every record. So what we are expecting? Props dot what? Records. We are expecting records. We have to map the records, read every record. And what we need to do is, for every record, we need to generate a row. For every record, we need to generate a row. So here I will keep, for every record, we are creating one row. And key will have a record. Okay, here, and in every row, we need to generate cells. Cells depends on, in the record, how many keys are present. That means what we have to do, dynamic. We need to use what? Object dot what? Keys. Which object? Record object. In that record object, we have what? Keys. We are reading every keys, right? The keys already there. We are using a map. We are reading every key. For every key, we need to generate a cell. Cell will have a key and it will have a value. That means record of what? Key. It will return the value of that particular key. Yesterday we already designed this. This is for what? This is for displaying a table. Okay. Now we have another one. Here we need to generate a card for every cell. We need to generate a card for every record. For every record, that means for every record, we need to generate a card. Then what we have to do? Props dot what? Data is coming as what? Records. That means records here we are displaying as rows. Here we want to display as cards. We are reading every record. Okay. We have to map the record. For every record, what we need to do, we need to read a record. For every record, we need to create one card. So this is div. And I need to make it like a card. So class name, what is it? Card. And margin 2, padding 2, and I will give card style will have a width as some 200 pixel. Like this we are giving. This is every card. That means every record will be displayed like a card. Now inside the card, you usually have, card header. Class name, we are having card header. Inside the card header, we want to display the data. That means you see now, this is the object. In that object, we need the first key and we need to display the first key here. Right? So let's see how to display that data. Observe first, we need to display the data of the record in a card style. This is the record. It is having name, some TV, something like this. Suppose if it is products. Now how to display in this card header? This is present inside this record. Because we don't know in which data which key is present. Understood? In which data which one is present as a key. Key names we don't know. Key names will come dynamically. We don't know that it will have a name or first name or price. We don't know. Then how to read the keys? To read the keys here, what we have to do? Object dot what? Keys. Keys from which one? Record. It will read all the keys, which is an array. I will use an square brace 0. What does it means? It is going to read the first one. So that means it is going to read the first key. It is going to read the first key. Where to display the first key in this card header? First key I want to display. This is reading the key. How to display its value? What object.keys is doing? It is reading all the keys. Means I will explain this here. Suppose the object is having name, object is having price. So object is having these two keys. Now what this is doing? What it is doing? It is returning array. In that array, first have a name, second have what? Price. And at 0, what is present? Name. At 1, what is present? Price. Now what we need to do? I need to display its value, na? Its value. Then how to present its value? Actually, key is coming now. How to return its value? That means what we have to do? We can pass like this, na? Record of key name. Key is name, na? That means it will get the value, am I right? So what we have to do? This is returning the key name. I will use, what is it? Record of this. It is going to return its value. That means get the first key and pass the first key into this record. It will return its value. This we are displaying as card header. Other keys I want in the card body. This I can display as a heading or something. I can display that as a heading, like heading we are displaying. Okay. Next we have another one. What is it? Div. So what we want to display here? We want to display the class name is what? Card body. Card body. Here I want to display the second key. That means its price or other details or something else we want to display. Then what you will do? Here we have to use what? Record object dot what? Keys. Which object? Record of index number how much? 1. It will get the first one. Or you can use any map. By using that you can read all the keys and values. That technique also I will show you. I will add another one. So here I will use another div. I will put here class name as card footer, and here I will put a button. This button will have a class BTN primary W100, and here view details, something like this we are having. Now I designed a component, a controlled component with conditional render. Now this controlled component is taking how many properties you need to pass here? One is what? Layout, another one is caption, another one fields, another one records. These are the details we need to pass. Let's see. First, if you don't pass layout, so it will like cards or anything, right? It is situation rendering na. Let's go to the conditional demo. Here we are creating some data. Let's keep some data. I will remove this logic now. We will create some data. So first point is where we are have products is equal to product, not where, we just use a constant. What is it? Products is equal to what? Use state, it is an array of products. We have name. This is like name. Okay. We have like price and something like this. Okay. Next we have another. So this is like name. So, and this is mobile and some price. Okay. We have few details. You can add more different type of data here. Now what you are doing here is we are calling the component here. What is the component? I will put here conditional rendering. Okay, how do we call the component? We have dynamic grid na? We are calling dynamic grid. Okay, into dynamic grid, we need to pass the records. It is expecting what? Caption. Caption I will give. Actually, caption need to be displayed at the top. We will use caption top. Okay, caption. What is the caption? Product details. Okay, what else? We need what? Fields. Fields is again an array. Now, actually, what you can do, you can create another constant. We can create what? Fields. What is it? Set fields is equal to what is use state, and it is an array. Now, how to collect the all fields on use effect? Use effect means when component mounts, na? Use effect. When component mounts, I need to collect all the fields. Tell me how to collect all the fields. All the fields from this array. It is an array of objects. We have to collect an object and we have to return all its fields. In that array, if there is an object, that object related all keys we want. Products is an array, na? From products array, just bring the first record. If you can bring the first record, you can collect all its keys. That means how to bring the first record? How to bring the first record? What is it? Products. Products is an array, na? Products of what? 0. It will bring the first record, na? How to read all its keys? How to read all its keys? By using what? Object dot what? Keys. Object dot keys of first record. It will return all keys of the first record, na? Now where to apply these all? We have to put in set fields. Huh? Into the set fields, we are passing all of them. That means we are getting the first record. From the first record, we are reading all keys and we are loading all the keys into this one. That means now fields have all the fields. That means what we have to do, fields we will get from where? Fields. We will get the fields. Next what? We need to collect the records. Na? Records are coming from where? Products. Records are coming from products because products is an array of all the records, right? It is coming from there. Then you see here, the output will be card style. It is showing a card style. I'm just using in a card style, little different now. What we'll do, style width is 250 pixel. And the card header, I will keep style height of card as suppose 100 pixel. And cards will display like this. And we are displaying the data here. Right? And remember, here it is displaying the value. Na? How to display the key name? In the card body, it is displaying the value. How to display the key name? How to display the key name? What do you say? Object dot what? Object dot what? Keys. Keys of keys. Keys is an array. Na? Keys of what? Record. And at which index? 1. That means it is going to get the key name, price. It is going to display the key name. I will just put a colon here, then it will display the price. That means it is showing the price and it is showing the title. And here we are displaying this data, and see, by default it is coming in which format? Card. But I want in a table. Then what should I do? What should I do? Whenever we are calling this dynamic grid, here we need to pass what? Layout. Layout is what style? grid style, then automatically it will display in a grid. And I will change this from grid to what style? Card. Then it will change to card. Same data is rendered in different ways. That means our controlled component is completely changing its appearance. Now I'm using here grid. It is showing like a grid. Now I will control this through a drop down. We will put a drop down. We will ask which one he wants. Am I right? That means what we will do is in this conditional render. So we will create here. We will create another one. What is it? So in conditional render, we will create a constant. Constant name is what? Layout. Layout. And we have what? Set layout is equal to use state. Layout is expecting a string. And what we will do is we will create a drop down here. We'll keep a div and class my2 or 3. And here we have a label. So we have a label and class font weight bold. And here form label. In this label, we will say select layout. And we will put a drop down. And this, let's keep this as W25. Okay. And here we'll have a class form select. Actually, this drop down should display in a div below. And what should be in the drop down? We need some options. The option is select layout. Okay. Another option is what? Grid. But the value must be in lowercase. What is the value? It is grid. We have another option. What is the option? Card. And what is the value? Value must be what? Card. Now you see there is a drop down above. Now user should able to select the layout. According to the layout, it should change below. Am I right? That means when user selects grid, it shows grid. When user selects card, it should show card. Let's see how to change that. You have to write a change event for this, right? So function handle layout change. We have to get its value now. So what we have to do? Set layout. Set layout gets the value from where? E dot target dot value. That means we have to write here on which event? On change. Handle layout change. It will collect the value and it will pass into layout. That layout we will apply here. Layout is not fixed now. It depends on layout now. It will depends on layout, right? So in that layout state, we are going to set grid or card according to the selection. Now you see by default it is card. You select grid, it will get grid. You select card, it will get card. It is going to render different content. Now if I select the first one, it should show please select a layout. How? Because usually this layout is rendering a string. Right? You can create another condition. In that condition, you can render something else. I will show you that situation also. That means it depends on value now. It depends on value. That means the layout has to change according to situation. I will show one more technique for this. Right? That means we can write a condition here. If it is not grid or card, you can render something else. We'll see that. Another technique we'll see. Now, what is the concept here is, this is a controlled component changing itself. A controlled component can change itself. It can display your data in different ways. I'm just passing only one data. Similarly, others. I'm just passing only one data. you pass employee data, you pass some other data, everything will be in the same way, right? Depending on what kind of data you are passing, it is able to display any data now. You add one more record, it will update that. You change the data, it will present according to the data. This is actually products data. You just put some employee data, it will get employee. Then don't use a name products. You just use the word as what? Data. Why? Because the data will be changing different. That means, for example, here I pass employee data. I am not passing products data. I am passing some employee data. That means like first name. So here we have John and some designation. So like manager, like this we are adding, then it is going to display that. According to the data, it is going to change. According to the data, it is going to change. It is going to change. You can handle any kind of data. You can handle any type of data here. You can put any kind of data. For your data, it will display in different style. This is how in real time they design controlled components. That means they will design a template and give it to you, and you can implement the template according to your requirements. I just added only few things. You can add colors, effects, styles, everything. That means I want to change the color layout. I want to change the theme. I want to change the placements. I want to hide some elements and show some elements. Everything you can achieve by using this. This is one example of conditional rendering. Another example of conditional rendering. Understood? That means in our previous example, what we done? In our previous example, in a component, we are rendering different components. When user selects weather will run. When user selects, so that means we are rendering different components. But here we are rendering only one component, but it is changing its layout. Are we rendering two components? No, we are rendering how many components here? Only one. But it changes according to situation. In our previous example, what happened? Weather is one component and carousel is another component. It is changing the components. Here now it is not changing the components. It is changing the render of component. Only one component rendering is changing. Conditional rendering is happening. It is changing according to the situation. That's what it is doing. So this is another example of that. That means how you can define in controlled components. So that means here a controlled component can render different content using props. A controlled component can render different contents using props, using properties. Props can provide a property which allows to render different content by using any decision making approach. Decision making approaches, various decision making approaches. What are those? If, else, switch, case, default, all these are decision making approaches. Any decision making approach. Decision making approach. Syntactically here, conditional render with controlled component. So we have a function, controlled component have props. If props dot key is equal to some value, then render return, then it will return some layout 1. So it will return some layout. Else it will return another layout. This is another conditional render. So according to the properties, it is going to render different content here according to the props. So this is conditional rendering in controlled components. You saw both in uncontrolled components how conditional render works, and in controlled components how it works. Now for this example, so in this example, this is an example. First, go to controlled components and add dynamic grid.jsx. This dynamic grid JSX, I will copy its code. This is dynamic grid. This is a controlled component with conditional rendering. That means according to the layout, if it is grid, it will present a table. If it is not grid, it will present a card. Right. Now, second, we need to implement. So conditional demo dot what JSX. In this conditional demo JSX, we are defining this. This is one concept we are using. So this is another example of conditional rendering. One example, uncontrolled component. Another example is controlled. Now we have another. There is another technique of handling conditional rendering. Let's see what it is. Another technique of conditional is, for example, I am visiting some website like YouTube. Suppose I am watching YouTube Naresh IT something. When I'm watching YouTube, you can see that when it opens this YouTube, and you see now here it is showing my profile photo here because I logged in. Suppose I log out here, that means I log out, sign out. When I sign out here, you can see that in the same YouTube Naresh IT, when I open, after sign out, when I open YouTube Naresh IT, and you can see that obviously when I sign out and use this, you will find here a different sign in option here. How you can change this area? When logged in, his photo and other details should come. Other details like account details, like view account details, sign out, change password. If he is not logged in, it is showing different. If logged in, it is showing different. How you will verify in a JavaScript application whether a user logged in or not? In JavaScript, what you learned in JavaScript, how do you know whether a user logged in or not? For that, you need various state management techniques. Various state management techniques. What are JavaScript state management techniques? Local storage, session storage, cookie storage. These are state management. Almost all React interviews when you attend, you will face questions on state management. And there are generally two types of state management they will ask: React state management and JavaScript. That means in JavaScript, what state management you learned, you have to implement. And in React, some more state management techniques will come, you will understand. So technically, through the state we can manage. That means how it is changing this area. That means obviously it is conditional rendering. Conditional rendering means it is verifying whether user is logged in or logged out. If logged in, it is showing something. If logged out, it is showing something else. Usually for this, we need a state management technique we will implement. We will see how to use the state of JavaScript, how to use and how to implement. First basic implementation I will show you. Means later we will implement with state. With the state we will implement. First we will see how we can change that area according to situation, right? Let's see. That means according to situation, we must able to change an area in a component, not complete component. We need to just change a area in the component. Till now, what you have done, you are rendering different components. You are changing the complete component layout, but it's not like that. Component will be same. Only some portion of component will be changing according to the situation. Thus also comes under the category of what? Conditional render. Conditional render. For example, it depends on the login status. Okay, let's clean up this. Okay, and here I will just keep a simple one. I will remove all these functions and everything. And I'm using a simple concept now. So here I have a nav, just temporarily. Margin top 4, padding is 2. Okay. In this navbar, we have a div. So this is having class font size 4 or 3, font weight as bold, and say some YouTube something. Find another div. Now here I'm adding some option like deflex, justify content between. Okay, what is the concept is in this output? So this navbar is having a border. Okay, and border 1. You just have a navbar. What is the concept? Right side of this navbar should change according to whether user logged in or not. Whether user logged in or not. So temporarily, I will keep one state. So constant. So we have state. This is log status, and set log status is equal to use state. Here I give sign out. Sign out is the log status, huh? Or I will just put a string On use effect, what we will do? Set log status as what? Sign out. Now, if log status is sign out, then here a sign in button should come. Na? A sign in button should come if log status is that. That means, see what I am doing here. How conditional rendering works now. Just use a dynamic expression. You put a conditional statement. Conditional statement means ternary operator. You cannot use if condition. Na? JSX will not allow statements. Here we use a ternary operator. What is it? If log status is equal to, what is the log status? Sign out. Sign out. If log status is sign out, then what I should do here? I should render a button. And the button name is what? Sign in. Sign in. So the class BTN, some danger, something like this. Now, otherwise, I will put a span here. I will put a span. In this span, I am going to render an image, roughly. This image source, do you have any image source, like which images we are having in our public? We have some images. Just roughly, I am using some logo 192.png. Right. So logo 192.png. Okay. Width I will give as suppose 20. Height also I give as 20. Just roughly. And you see now what it is going to render here. It is going to render a sign in button there. What is the current status? Current status is what? Sign out. That means what happens is when they log in, this sign out status will change to sign in, signed in, suppose. If signed in, then it changes with a different. I'm just adding some logo. Actually, where is it? This is the image. Image is having class as border. So border 2, rounded and rounded circle, like this we are adding. Then it will display in this way. And the padding 2, then it will add some rendering there. Padding is, I think, less. Okay. Size little bit increase, it will be fine. 40, yeah. Now you can see that is the logo. That means what happens is when the login status is what? Logout. That means it will display the button. It has to display the button. Sign out, na? Yeah. So if it is sign out, then it should display that button. And if it is signed in, then it should display different. This temporarily I am changing, but actually I should not change. I should ask the user to enter user ID password. If user ID password successfully entered, then we will create a session for him. And when session is there until he sign out, so it should display the sign in option. Means actually here there is not just only the button. Actually here we will have a button, and button will have what? Sign out. So class here BTN warning something. And you see actually if it is not sign out, it is what? Sign in. If it is already signed in, it will show like this. Now when I click sign out, then it will again get sign in. It should change. Now how you verify whether user logged in or not? When logged in, one screen. When logged out, another screen. This completely depends on conditional rendering and state management. In state management, you can use different techniques, like you can use session storage. You can use what? Local storage, or you can use what? Cookies, or you can even use query string. These are all various state management related techniques. In JavaScript, usually you learn, right? Now we will see how to implement these state management techniques and design this sign out. Means with a login screen, user should log in. When he logs in, one screen will come. When he log out, another screen will come. According to user state, it should change. That we'll see in next session. Okay. Tomorrow we will continue with this. Okay. Right. In tomorrow's session, you will see. Right.